Georgia's got the bye week this weekend, which means they're off, which means that all of their players are going to get a little bit of extra rest. The focus is really more on their team than it is on Florida, who is obviously who they always play after that bye week down in Jacksonville. The Dogs are banged up, and they've been banged up a lot of the season, really since the Oregon game. But that's what happens in football, right? A lot of teams are banged up, but Georgia's banged up in some key areas. Jalen Carter, A.D. Mitchell, Smile Mondon, those are the three. Lab McConkey, who we think is fine. Those are the three that I have flashing behind the screen for you. But, Kendall Milton, Xavier Truss. There's a lot of guys who have, minor injuries. Guys that play like Trezor Marshall, minor injuries. So this week, can they get healthy? Can they be, close to 100% going into Florida? I don't think they'll be really close to 100%. I do think they'll get a couple of those guys back when they play the Gators. But Jalen Carter, to me, is the most important one in that game, and I'm predicting right now that he's not going to play because, to me, it doesn't sound like he's as close as maybe we thought he was. A.D. Mitchell, I think, has a good chance to play. I think Smile Mondon will play. I'm going to read what Kirby said a couple days ago about all those guys and all those injuries, but when you're playing a team like Florida, you're more talented right now, right? Georgia's in a much better place than Florida right now. You're more talented. You have a better offense and a better defense, and you're better in all three phases right now. You don't necessarily have to have all those guys to win the game, but you'd like to have them, and you definitely would like to have them back when Tennessee rolls around the first weekend in November, and that'll be in Athens. That looks like it could end up being a top 3 matchup. That would be electric in Athens, and that's the direction we're going in. But the injuries are going to be really important, and that's why bye weeks are so important. Nolan Smith said last year that the off week was huge for them. I think both when it came to getting healthy, when it came to, what does Georgia need to do better? What do the Dogs have to do better? Not what do we have to do to game plan against the next team we have up against the next few matchups we have, but watch the tape on yourselves, clean up little things. I think that Georgia doesn't have a lot of flaws, and so this off week I think is coming at a good time because the first 7 games of their schedule, albeit they had a couple challenges, are not tough as the last 5 games on their schedule as far as a stretch goes. And Oregon was the best team that Georgia's played so far, and they blew them out 49-3. Ryan Curley from DAWGSTRUCTION here talking about Georgia's injuries, talking about the off weekend. If Georgia can get close to 100% against Florida, make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. Links down below. Maybe make sure you're using our code DAWG, DAWG, in the DoorDash app for special discounts. That's a limited time only. All right. This is what Kirby, he was asked about various injuries. This is long, and I might break it up, but here we go. Very promising on Smile Mondon. He went today. That was Tuesday, and that was more than he had gone in 2 weeks. So this week he has practiced. So I'm going to break it up and talk about it a little bit. This week, Smile Mondon has practiced more than he has the last couple weeks. Kirby would not say he's 100%, but the fact that he was out there, was on punt team, he covered people, was good. He did way more than he'd done the last few weeks, but he's not 100%. He feels really good about where Smile Mondon's at. He didn't see, and so moving on to 80. So I think, based off that, it sounds to me like Smile is going to play against Florida, would be my guess. So based off what I've seen, based off what I know, and based off what Kirby said, I'll give you my predictions of who's going to play and who's not going to play against Florida. Here's what he said about A.D. Mitchell. He hasn't seen him that much, just because I think the focus hasn't been on watching the receivers. He's not able to go in drill work yet, which I think is kind of a step back from what we thought. He did conditioning, and he ran, and he looked better. So we know that the ankle sprain was the original injury, and then it turned into having a thumb issue. And Kirby has noted that the thumb has been more of the issue recently because in warm-ups against Missouri is when, I believe it was warm-ups against Missouri, is when the second issue happened, when the second issue arose, and that's what's been holding A.D. Mitchell back. So sounds to me like A.D. Mitchell is kind of a 50-50 for Florida now. Look, this is Thursday, so there's 9 more days before that game. 9 days is a good amount of time to get healthy, to get right, especially when you're getting extra rest. But I don't think that A.D. Mitchell's surefire go against the Gators. About Jalen Carter, Jalen's continuing to work on the MCL. He's not out there with us conditioning. He does it in the training room, so he's doing his conditioning in the training room, the weight room. He's not really practicing. He does stuff because of where he's at with the MCL. I don't think Jalen Carter is going to play against Florida. And I would say he's the most important one. Him and Smile. I would say as far as what you're dealing with against Florida, it's more important to get Smile and Jalen Carter back just because of how much Anthony Richardson can run around. And I don't think Georgia really have a problem scoring. Georgia hasn't had a true issue scoring with A.D. Mitchell out, but he definitely makes it easier because he is their most talented wide receiver. And so, to me, Smile Mondon and Jalen Carter being back against Florida is probably more important for what they need. And I don't think Jalen Carter is going to play against Florida. It doesn't sound like it to me. I mean, he's not really practicing. We're 9 days away. So the MCL sprains, it takes more than a couple weeks to heal from. And, he'll be coming on week 4 and week 5 with this. Getting him back for Tennessee is important. About Kendall Milton. Kendall feels better. He ran on Monday and Tuesday. I don't know about Wednesday. But he's not practicing and repping with them. He's doing straight line runs. Kendall Milton, is he the worst running back? Excuse me. Is he? To me, out of all these guys, and this is not. I'm not saying Kendall Milton's not important. I acknowledge Kendall Milton is talented, but as far as what we've seen on the field this year, the other 3 running backs can definitely handle the bulk of the load, and Branson Robinson and Dejan Edwards really coming to their own has been huge. So if Kendall needs to rest a game or 2, I don't think that's the end of the world. Ladd could have went. They took him out against Vanderbilt. He could have went back in, and so that's not really a concern for Kirby. And so he's practicing. He's ready to go according to Kirby Smart. But that's kind of your breakdown on a few of Georgia's players that they need to get right if they want to be full strength. And being full strength midway through the season is not realistic just because the nature of the sport. It's a violent sport. But A.D. Mitchell, Jalen Carter, Smile Mondon, those are 3 pillars of your team. Smile Mondon is important. He's a guy that's replacing essentially Quay Walker and kind of Channing Tindall. That's kind of, Nakobe Dean is being replaced by Jamon Dumas Johnson. So we saw how important those guys were against Florida last year. So Smile Mondon's going to be very important against Florida. And it sounds to me like he has a good shot to play. It doesn't sound to me like Jalen Carter has a great shot to play. And it sounds like kind of a coin toss for A.D. Mitchell. But this off week is important for getting them right, getting them closer to back, not re-injuring anything, not suffering new injuries, and then focusing on Florida next week. Those are my thoughts. That is my analysis. Links down below for everything. DAWGSTRUCTION, dogpost.com. Make sure you're using our DoorDash code DAWGDOG. See you there.